The coroner's inquest is far from the only place where mental health issues are getting a lot of attention these days. Universities and colleges are also focusing on them more and more, particularly since it's estimated as many as 20% of Canadian youth are affected by some form of mental issue. Dealing with mental health in the student population is now a top priority for colleges and universities. Campuses across the city are implementing strategies to help young people identify and cope with mental health issues. This week, CBC Toronto launches a series called Off Course on Campus, taking a deeper look at what's being done and what needs to be done. We'll hear from students who are dealing with mental illness.
Sadness and depression can seem like they're going to last forever because it feels like you have no hope anymore. But knowing that eventually, if you do seek help and if you find something that fulfills you, and there's something for everyone, because there's so many things in life that are so joyous and so great.
Some notable Torontonians who've dealt with mental health issues also weigh in on the effort that post-secondary institutions are making.
When you're in university, you have the opportunity to take advantage of services there. I've learned this way too late. You have services available at the university and at colleges who can help you with mental health.
When I was at Queen's University, I knew something was wrong. Nobody knew how to diagnose it, and I felt like a freak. I felt like a total outsider, and I had no place to go, and I really wished I had that place to go. So a place where you can go and talk and be accepted for who you are as someone with an illness.
Now, Ryerson University has created its own mental health strategy, and joining me to talk about more about it is Su-Ting Teo, Director of Student Health and Wellness at Ryerson. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Why is it so critical to identify and treat mental health issues in a student population?
Well, it's critical because it's new and for them, and if we can get people early before they get into a lot of trouble, then we can really prevent a lot of bad consequences academically, life, and then further illness later on.
And this has become a priority for Ryerson, like it has in so many other post-secondary institutions.
Yes.
Why is that?
Well, it has a big impact on our students. Working as a physician in the medical center, it's one of the biggest burdens we see in terms of illness for students.
And I know that people may be surprised to learn that it's only now that a lot of colleges and universities are trying to come up with formal strategies. What resources existed before this effort was made? Were there any?
Sure, there was resources in terms of counseling centers, medical centers, and then student affairs, student services. So those existed as they do now, but what we're trying to do is look at a preventative, more systematic approach to really look at the structure and policies that are going to make a difference upstream before people start getting sick necessarily.
What's the one big thing you found in the year and a half that you've been working towards coming up with a formal strategy?
I think as part of the scan that we did for developing the strategy is there are lots of services and pockets of things that are happening and lots of passionate people who care about the issue. It's just that they're a bit ad hoc. They're here and there, and there's nothing coordinated. There's no systematic strategic approach to it.
What about in the case of an immigrant student and everything that they have to deal with as a student in a different country or a different city? Would the approach be the same in dealing with an immigrant student who might have mental health issues?
I think they actually require a little bit of a different lens. I mean, for immigrant students, depending on what country they come from, they deal with a whole other set of cultural expectations, stigma around mental illness that could be barriers, as well, of course, as language and cultural issues. When you talk about helping someone, oftentimes it's through talk therapy, which has a lot of meaning and dependent on language. And so if you've got that as another barrier, it really can stop people from getting better.
And you mentioned stigma. We know that there was quite a lot of stigma years ago before this was recognized as an illness, particularly on campuses. What's your sense of whether there is that kind of a stigma that still exists among a student population, faculty, staff?
I would say the stigma still exists. It's getting better, so it's getting lighter. So more and more people are understanding that there is a problem, that they're we're not blaming the individuals for, you know, the difficulties they're going under, but there's still lots of people who don't understand that, and so we need to do a lot of work in terms of raising awareness and training on how to support people.
And Ryerson is certainly doing that. Thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome.